It's Ken with Cupid. Very happy to see you again. I'm here with the lovely Carabelle as usual.
Hi, everyone. Happy Hallows Eve. Is that right?
It's Halloween.
Oh,
Yesterday
Halloween.
was Halloween Eve.
Oh, sorry. Happy Halloween. I'm in
Did you decorate your
costume.
house, Kara?
I didn't.
I
I'm
didn't either.
horrible. I'm gonna be
You know,
honest.
there's two pieces. Number one, inflation. It's too expensive. Number two, so much work, so much to do. Am I
I
old? Am I a curmudgeon? Like a
know,
little.
but you're right. It is a lot of work. I think the first year I did it, and then the
Mm,
kids in my neighborhood are scandalous, so they were a little greedy with the candy, and
uh,
yeah, I said
mm.
I'm not doing that again. It's like $80 worth of candy, so.
Candy's also expensive now. Anyway, happy Halloween
Happy
regardless.
Halloween. Yeah.
We could have came in costumes if we would have thought about it.
I'm
I mean,
me,
you look
myself, and
exotic.
I. Yeah.
You could be Egyptian with the necklace. Like you could be. You could be like a small golden thing. Like you're already done. I'll be like a tech entrepreneur. How about me? Like tech. Like put on a sweater. All right, Kara, what are we doing today?
What are we doing today? I wanted to, because we talked so much about like questions that I really ask my clients to get that deep level of understanding about who they are and what they're looking for. So, what I thought I would do is just cover some of the questions that I feel are important, at least for me as a matchmaker, to really get to know my client. And I'll kind of ad lib and tell you maybe why I feel like I ask some of these questions. And if you guys have anything to contribute, like good questions that I'm overlooking, please jump in, chat. Let us know what you think a good question would be to ask your clients. So, without further ado, the very first thing I do is ask for my client's permission to have a candid conversation.
Hmm.
I know that seems a little cheesy. People are like, why are you asking for permission to have a conversation? Because when I set that tone and say, hey, Ken, can I have your permission to have a really honest conversation with you today? That lets you know that number one, I'm a pretty honest and transparent matchmaker. And
Right.
that's kind of my expectation as to how our conversations will go. So I'm kind of laying out gently the foundation in which I'd like our conversations to be, which is open and honest. So if
Hmm.
I say, hey, Ken, can I have your permission to have a really honest conversation with you today? 9 times out of 10, your clients are going to say something jokingly like, well, I wouldn't have it any other way. Or like, why would we not have an honest conversation?
Sure.
That'll open up a few giggles and laughs. I think that kind of will help you set the rapport and the tone a little more with your client.
Also,
Um,
safety though, right, Kara? Like if I hear that, my first reaction is, I know I'm about to get some questions I might not be comfortable with, and
right.
but I've given you consent. And
That
I
is,
think that's so smart because it could go so wrong the other way, Kara. If you
it
were to
could.
ask you like personal information or whatnot without clarifying permission, or maybe even like, Kara, I mean, have you ever discussed like a safe word? Like, have you ever like created boundaries for your clients where they can say like, I'm not ready to talk about that yet?
Yes, and I tell them if there's anything that you're not ready to discuss with me or that you don't feel comfortable in sharing with me today,
Hmm.
that's fine.
Right.
Because usually my line of questioning I can kind of put two and two together. And then usually down the road, as you begin to really work with your client and know your client, it will either tell you that answer that you wanted to know that they
Yeah.
wouldn't give you the first time around.
Mhm.
But once again, just setting that tone and having a good relationship and rapport. Typically, I've not had any clients ask me, why are you asking me these questions? Because they actually will thank me for taking the time to really get to know them.
Yeah, of course. And that's your job as a matchmaker, right? You have to know them
Absolutely.
almost better than themselves and almost like watch out for those pitfalls they're going to have. So, okay. All
That's
right,
right.
great. So
So
ask for permission.
just asking for permission sets the tone, puts your client at ease, and you can expect to have a much deeper conversation with your client. So that's my
Perfect.
first and foremost thing that I do.
Okay.
I like to know what made them choose a matchmaker.
Got it.
Why did you choose a matchmaker? It tells me a lot about now whether you'll understand this or not. Is a lot of clients will just spill everything to you. Just with that one question, you're going to learn a whole lot about them. They'll probably start to tell you a little bit about their past relationships. Akin, I was married for 16 years. I've been on these apps and I just haven't had much luck. I'm not
Sure.
finding quality people.
Right. Yep.
I also think it's important because I want them to hear themselves say why their
Mm.
relationships have not been working in the past.
Mm.
And that kind of ties into how important it is for them to have a matchmaker. You're kind of facing them to have their own self-reflection.
Mm.
Hey,
Introspection too, because I don't think a lot of people have that, Kara. You know,
mhm,
I don't know about you, Kara. I just started journaling for the very first time this year, or actually last year, and it has been life changing. Which I would have never like. I'm not like a woo woo person. Like I'm pretty like cut down to the
right.
facts of like let's get things done. I'm not. I've never been one for meditation, but I
Mm,
think if you ask yourself to verbalize what you're interested in, you might even say, I don't like the way it comes out of my mouth. Like, is that really how I
right,
feel? Or is that what I'm used
right.
to? Or, eek.
Or you might say, "Hey, that sounds a little bit ridiculous or selfish or shallow. Let me marinate in that thought a little more."
Mm. Super
So I
helpful
just
for a matchmaker to like discuss that, right? Because you say,
exactly.
okay, that's a very interesting statement.
That is right. That it's self-reflection on your client's part.
Mm.
I like to it'll also tell you a little bit about why they feel it's important to them, why having a matchmaker is important to them.
Got it.
So, why did you choose a matchmaker to begin with? It's gonna
Got it.
tell you a whole lot of the relationship challenges and, if they're being honest with you, that they've had and what's led them to ultimately choose you as being their matchmaker.
Right. Okay.
I may even follow up with the question and say, "Well, why me specifically? Why did you
Mm.
choose me?"
Interesting.
Um,
Well, especially in the Cupid world, because there's a whole lot of
right.
matchmakers inside of Cupid. And so well, I guess it's also part of the conversation needs to be like, do you think that's a point where you are expected to sell yourself or they selected you? Or what do you think?
I think that they've selected you for a reason, but I
Mm.
think it would be very insightful for a matchmaker to know why your client chose you. I chose you because you said on your profile that, gosh, you've traveled around the world, you speak 3 different languages. It kind of resonates with me. I used to live in 4 or 5 different countries and I speak 2 languages. So I
Right.
thought that you would probably have a better perspective of the type of client that I'm looking for.
Love it.
Or, hey, I see that you're a soccer enthusiast and I coach soccer on the side. And that just kind of resonated with me. Once again, I think it'll just give you some insight as to maybe some things on your bio as a matchmaker that's working.
Right.
What's garnering these people to come to you, and maybe what's not, what you could change a little bit.
Right. I love it.
So I think
Smart.
that's really helpful. So the next question I like to ask: where were you born? Where someone was born is not necessarily where they were raised. Um,
Mm.
so where were you born? I was born in Indiana. However, maybe they weren't raised in Indiana.
Right.
So, we know that how a person was raised um, kind of sets the foundation for life. And so I like to just know where they were born, but
Hmm.
more specifically, where were you raised?
Mm.
I was born in Indiana, but gosh, my dad traveled around a lot for business and we ended up in Chicago. And so I was raised in Chicago for most of my youth.
Yeah. A very different place than Indiana. But also, there's so often that you don't even get down to that in like a dating scenario. And
Mhm.
so getting those kind of insights and details about where you're raised can really paint a picture of the type of person you're attracted to or the type of culture you like or don't like. Because I know lots of people that were raised in New York City and hate it,
Yep,
and you know what I
exactly.
mean? And so like if you see on someone's profile, I love New York, you're like, okay. They might fit really well, but there might be a real cultural shift here or clash that you could see beforehand. And like as we remember, matchmakers, this is our job as matchmakers,
Right.
right? Seeing things our client can't see, you're trying to like head it off the pass, or as long as everyone's aware of it. Like your job is not to say, oh, just because they were raised in New York doesn't mean they could possibly match with someone who's in New York. Make them aware of it. Let them know before you go in.
Exactly. But I feel like it's important because, if you were born and raised in New York. It's New York is big. It's a lot of
Right.
people.
Right.
It's high pace, right?
Mhm.
Versus I was born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska. Tells me a lot about like
Very different. Omaha's a big city in Nebraska, though. Don't you forget, Kara.
well, you might just want to know that okay, this client that has been raised in Manhattan, would they fit with somebody that's been born and raised in Omaha?
Or maybe they would find it super attractive because they want to escape
It
that
could
world,
be right.
right? And
Maybe
those are valuable things to know.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you're asking, I like to ask open-ended questions because when you
Hmm.
ask it open-ended, typically they're going to tell you a lot more than the initial question that you're asking. So if I say, "Hey, Ken, where were you raised?" Usually it's like, "Oh, I was raised in Chicago with my brother and my sister. I have an older sister. My mom and dad were married, but they got divorced when I was 7." So you've just garnered a whole lot of
Right.
information from that one question.
Right.
Not only did they tell you where they were raised, but they told you how they were raised. I was
Right.
raised with basically a single parent until up until the age of 5, right?
Yeah.
I think that's important to know. What kind of family did you come from? Do you have siblings? Are you close with family? Are you close with your family? And
Good question.
is that something that's important to you and a mate? Um, and I've added that because as I have been a matchmaker, I have found that that seems to be important. People that are very big on family values, family comes first. That is really important. That they have close relationships with members of their family, their siblings, their parents.
Right.
So that was something that I didn't start out asking Ken, but as I got to talk to clients, I added that in because I felt that that was really important.
I mean, Kara, I would say it's super important to me. If I like as a single on the other side who's not a professional matchmaker, like
Mhm.
I would say it's really important that my partner like has a good relationship with his family. It's a huge red flag to me if I hear that like I don't talk to my mom. I'm like,
Yep,
because I talk to my mom all the time. Like
exactly.
that's a big red flag, and then that makes me concerned about more things. So it's interesting.
That is
Okay.
exactly right. I had a client. He was from China. He was
Oh,
Chinese. Now, culturally, what I know about them culturally is that they're very, very close, tight knit, right?
sure. Yeah.
Family wise. This gentleman said to me that he hated his mother and his sister. So, as a matchmaker, I'm like, if you don't like your mom and you don't like your sister, that is a huge red flag. How could
Sure.
you possibly respect a female
Did
if
you
you don't?
qualify it? Did you get deeper into it as to why?
Um, I think
Sounds like no.
yeah, I don't remember going too deep into it, but when
Mm,
he told me that, I was just really taken back by that.
mm,
And
yep.
I said, okay, well, yeah, that's in my mind. I was saying this is not going to fly with my client because she's very, very close with her sister and her
Yeah.
mother. And I
Yeah.
know how important those nuances to her. So I just cut it off short.
Yeah. Fair. Well, you save. I mean, you save your client energy and you saved him energy if like he has to like work on that or there wasn't like an opening to like discuss or figure that out. Like, yeah, I get it.
Exactly. So the next would be, do you have children? So do you have children?
Hmm.
Yes, I have children that are ages that are young. Are you okay with dating other people that have children? You,
Sure.
you'll find a lot of single parents love to be matched with other single parents because they
Hmm.
feel like someone that doesn't have children cannot really understand their time constraints,
Hmm.
right? Which
Kids are a
makes
lot of energy and time. I mean, that makes sense.
they're a whole lot of energy. They're a whole lot of time. And I've had clients that say, "Hey, I would love to date. I don't mind dating someone with children." And these are older clients, but
Hmm.
they have to be like out of the house on their
Got it.
own. So
Got
you
it. Got it.
want to
Got it.
talk about the children. What ages are they comfortable um, in their mate having their children? Like, what are the ages?
Hmm.
And so the second part of that is, do you want children?
Yeah.
Are they
My favorite question, Kara?
Are they looking to have children? You certainly don't want to match someone whose priority is to find someone, get married, and build a family. You don't want to match them with someone that no way, no shape, no form do they want
Right.
to have children.
Right.
Like a non-negotiable for a lot of people. So that's very important that you would heed to that.
Well, then
So
there's also like other lines in the sand, right, Kara? Things like, how many children do you want? Because for some people, like Kara, I'll tell you honestly, I had a guy like earlier today turn me down, which is fine. Hey, it's okay. It's a whole process. Well, because I said I wanted children. And he was like, do you mean a child? And I said, no, like I'm pretty fluent in English. Like I want children. Yes. 4 to 6. How many can I have? You know, I'm a big man. I can like hold them all. Like
right.
a little like a little carrier system, like they're like a dozen eggs, like a little baby carrier. Anyway, no, I think it's so important to clarify those terms and those goals about children, because that's a lifetime commitment, right?
It is.
And you know, Kara, I think I brought it up before, but like I do have a huge fear, and I think a lot of young women experience this too, when they get into a relationship and they didn't think that it was their responsibility to define this. I've had some of my very best female friends get into relationships where this was not defined or understood, and they're just assuming in the heterosexual world it's just a given, right? And then they spend the best years of their life, 22 to 32, best years of their life. They've gotten comfortable. They're not like popping at the gym as much, you know what I'm saying? And then, you know, she's like, okay, like the clock is ticking, and he's like, oh yeah, I don't actually want that, and she's just obliterated. And I've seen that happen before. And so like matchmakers, you know, advise your clients, any dating situation, whether it's through you or not, they should be discussing this. Because big money, but also big change in your life.
It's a deal breaker for a lot of people. Children and no children, which makes sense as to why it would be a deal breaker. So you want to just have a clear understanding if your client has children, how that relationship looks like, you know, if things with the ex are kind of copacetic and there's no drama there. Sometimes I'll ask that if I feel like there may be, I'll say, how's your relationship with you and your ex? Oh, we have a great co-parenting schedule, and you know, even though we didn't work out, we're really both there for our children.
Amazing.
You want to hear those things?
Yeah, of course you do. Yeah, super high priority, especially when people have children. I didn't even think about people who already have kids.
Yeah, they'll tell you specifically, oh, I'll date somebody, but the kids have to be like, can't be of babysitting age, or have to be able to be at home by themselves in case we want to go do something. So
yep, got it.
Pets. How do you feel about pets? Do you have any pets, Ken?
I don't, but I grew up, see, open-ended question, Kara. I grew up with 3 to 4 dogs, 5+ cats, and like 20 or 30 chickens at all times. And my mom successfully saved a few squirrels and like raised them to health, which is another whole conversation. So I love pets, but I will say, Kara, I am allergic to cats, and I will not live with them. Can't do it.
Okay, so Ken is allergic to pets. That's going to be something helpful for you to know, because you certainly don't want to match Ken, you know, with the cat man that has 10 cats.
Happens though. You know, people get into their late 20s, they start picking up cats, and like for some reason,
I know
there's a lot of cats. Kara, I mean, it's true.
Is my cat behind me or something? I'm like,
no, I don't know if you have a cat, but I do have a cat. From my own dating world, I can't tell you how many times, and like, there shouldn't be any shame in that, right? You know, like, I want to get a dog. I will one day, and I'm going to love that dog. But it's just so funny when I see, like, I'll see some guys that I'll try to go out with, and I'll see like, oh, cat dad of 3, and I'm like, 3? 3 of these monsters?
I had a client, she had 10 cats.
Did you match her, Kara? Did you get an award? The Matchmaker Olympics?
I matched her, but you know, this guy also had multiple cats. So it was like a match made in heaven. I was like,
how many cats? Wait, tell us how many cats there were. I gotta know.
So she had 10, he had 6 cats. So that's 16 between the two of them.
Kara!
I think I even said jokingly, like, oh, well, you guys both have cats and are cat lovers. And And he's like, oh, well, I have 6. How many does she have? She has 10. Oh, that's great.
Kara, you are a wizard. You are a goddess of matchmaking. If you
I
can
mean,
achieve that, that really, okay, that's such an interesting conversation, though, because for so many people, that would be the biggest red flag in existence.
right?
But it's just finding your person and connecting them together. Uh,
She was very, very, oh my gosh. I think she was an attorney. She was a
okay.
tax attorney, which just like it didn't really fit like the mold, but she liked cats, right?
She
Um,
loves cats, Kara. She had 10. She did not have a single digit of cats, Kara.
so for her, kind of like it changed her preferences though, which was interesting because then she kind of had to water her preferences down to somebody that, was a pet lover, had to be a
Sure.
pet lover, of course,
Right.
cats in
That's
particular.
so interesting. Huh.
So you'll want to know if they're allergic, if they're not,
Yeah.
all that good stuff. Ken, share a little, if you would, about your hobbies and interests. What do you like to do?
So, Kara, I love two things most of my common daily stuff. I love to cook. I was raised by my great aunt who lived with us for many years. She still does, lives in my parents' house, and she taught me to cook. She's a grandmaster chef. She cooks for presidents. So I
Wow.
learned to cook from her, and I am definitely like the proper Southern type that shows my affection through food. So that's one of my hobbies. On my other side is surprise, surprise, Kara. I am hyper competitive, so I need sports. Like I don't
Okay,
like to
that's
watch
great.
sports, but I love to play them. So I play volleyball at least once a week, and that's actually how
Wow.
I find most of my social community too.
Okay. So that sounds like you're pretty active then.
I try to be. I mean, other than building Cupid, but yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But I
So
see, Kara, how your open-ended question got a whole lot more out of me, than just what are your hobbies, listing like 2 or 3 of them.
yep.
Hmm.
I know you were raised with your great aunt. So even if
Yeah,
you didn't share that with me initially, or maybe you forgot to share that with me, you just told me. She
right.
was a great cook and she cooked for presidents.
Yeah. Cool, right?
Means that you were probably well behaved, right?
I wasn't alive at the time, but that's okay. I was never well behaved. No, don't be don't misunderstand that. Kara, I
So
want to pause real quick. I want to let everyone know, hey guys, I see we have a bunch more people showing up. So if you guys would like to ask Kara any questions or add in, or like any suggestions or things you'd like, please put in the comments. We'll happily respond to them live. We have a
yeah.
whole bunch more questions from Kara, but if you guys want to like throw in your should I ask this, should I not ask this, please feel free to pop it in the comments and we'll respond to it here. All right, Kara, keep going.
All right. So yes, your bucket list. What's on your bucket list, Ken?
That's such a great question. That's oof. So I've done a lot, Kara.
Do you like to travel
I
or
love. That's the first thing my brain went to was travel. My
okay,
question
let's
was,
travel.
how crazy was I going to get? I was going to say, you know, there's. I want to go to every country in the world. I mean, actually, what's funny, Kara? I have a bigger bucket list item. I want to go to space.
You want to go to space?
Yep. I
Okay.
want to be one of these people that jumps on one of these crazy planes and then goes out, like, to actually go visit space.
I think that would be incredible.
Isn't that cool?
How long have you been wanting to do that?
As long as I've been seeing these crazy space companies going up and then it becomes commercial, I think in our lifetime, like your and my lifetime, it'll be super luxury still, but it will get down to like the tens of thousands of dollars, not the millions. And so, like, people could possibly afford it and save up for it. And that's what I would like to do one day. I've never been weightless in my life. Can you imagine how
Oh
amazing that
man,
feels? Like,
that would
especially
make
someone
you
who's 6'5" and I weigh almost 300 pounds. Like, I'm a big person, and like that's a lot of crushing power and the
right.
freedom and the floating and just the
Oh yeah,
beauty of what space must be like. My heart. So
that would be amazing.
it's a bucket
Okay.
list item.
So that's your bucket list. Are there any activities that you like to do, but you would prefer to do with a partner?
Oh my gosh, everything, Kara.
Everything? Okay. Or maybe things that
Kara,
you stop doing because you don't have a partner to do it with.
so I think I've traveled less.
Mm.
It's interesting, Kara. A few years ago, for a real estate convention, as you might know, I'm a real estate investor as well. And
Right.
so I went on a cruise to Alaska, which was super beautiful. It was
Mm.
amazing, but it was alone. And let me tell you how strange it is to cruise alone. Um, Especially because it was a real estate convention on a cruise, so everyone's there with their family. We do
Right.
business stuff during the day, and then you go with their family. And like It was like someone dropped you off at the mall for a week alone.
Okay.
It's very weird. Let me tell you. And
Mm.
there's so many situations, I've gone through in my life where I'm like, I would prefer to have a partner to do this. And I think even though, Kara, as of today at 32, I've visited 40 countries. I
Okay.
would like to, you know, visit a lot more. I've never been to Japan. I've never been to Indonesia. I've never been to India. Like some really cool places. My parents and my family are talking about going to Scotland next year. And my dad and my mom are like, so you gonna bring someone? And I'm like, I would love to find someone. That'd be really nice, Mom.
No pressure. Or maybe you find
You know,
somebody in Scotland.
I would love it. Those accents, oh my gosh,
Oh
sign me
yeah,
up.
that is so
Oh,
sexy.
sign me up in a heartbeat. What about you, Kara? What's on your bucket list?
What is on my bucket list? To own my own company
Okay,
would
fabulous.
be on my bucket list. I've traveled extensively. I've done some things, but I would say that is my biggest bucket list. Is just to
Fabulous.
own my own company. I would love that.
Love it.
Um,
Great.
so describe a little bit of your, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm ahead of you. Your
No, you're good.
lifestyle. Tell
Yeah.
me a little bit about your lifestyle, or like what a week with Ken. If I were going to spend the week with you, Ken, what does your week typically look like?
Yeah, I was going to have a question about lifestyle because I'm interested. So, all right. So for me, uniquely, Kara, I am an entrepreneur. So I do not work for anyone else. I have two different sides of me. A lot of my time is consumed with real estate on one side and my company, Kupid, on the other side.
Okay.
I am up at 6 a.m. every day. I usually exercise for 1 to 2 hours a day, 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening. Love to cook for myself. I make 3 meals a day for myself, usually. Very rarely do I go eat out. I love to eat out, though. Let's be clear. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's just expensive and fatty, and I'm trying to be like not such a big man.
Right. Me too.
But I play sports every week. Just because of the line of work that I'm in, as I'm sure a lot of your clients feel this, a lot of my time is consumed. So I don't necessarily have as much free time as I would like. But
Okay.
that's not my plan forever. I would
Okay.
love to have a partner and spend more time with them and have a better work-life balance. And obviously, I'm grinding really hard to have kids in the future. So
Right.
I wanna work really hard now so I can semi-retire once I start
You
having
can
children.
enjoy. Okay.
Exactly.
Love it. So
Yeah.
what Ken has done is he has just kind of given me a glimpse as to I feel like he's a little bit regimented, right? Because he said every day in the morning he exercises, in the evening he exercises. He's the owner of two companies. He also shared with me that he doesn't have a whole lot of flexibility now because he's an owner, but
Right.
he has a little bit, and he's working on opening that up. He also told me that he plays sports, right? So that tells me once again that you're active and that you probably would like someone else that's active, that
Right.
leads a healthy lifestyle, that has a workout regimen that they follow. So,
Totally
yeah,
agree, Kara. You got me to a T. I mean, you got it. That's exactly who I
okay.
am.
So that's why I ask you to describe your lifestyle. I certainly wouldn't want to, well, I mean, I guess you could. You can match somebody up that has a little more time and things of that nature, but it's just a good idea for you to kind of know what your client's schedule is, how flexible are they. Um, so that told me a lot when I said, describe your lifestyle to me. It also
Yeah.
told me that he's into health and fitness, and I hadn't even asked that yet.
Interesting. Kara, I have a question for you. So let's say you get all this information about me, right? We talked about my lifestyle. How many breadcrumbs do you give the person you're introducing me to and vice versa? Meaning, like if you know your client really well, right? Do you give hints or tips to the person you're matching them with, or do you give your client some little breadcrumbs? I could see as a client I might love that, but then I also might not. I don't know. What's your opinion on breadcrumbs?
I do. I think breadcrumbs are good. I think it's because really, as a matchmaker, even though you're sending over the profile and you're saying to them, hey, I found this person I think is going to be great for you, you want to be able to tie in why you feel like that person is great for you. So, by the breadcrumbs, I think are great.
Yeah, I
That's going to
agree.
help
And I
you
think
tie
I
it
would
all
really
together.
appreciate that from a matchmaker. You know, matchmakers, if you think about that from your client's angle, right? Okay, you found someone who's really interesting. You invested time to screen them. Obviously, they can see the screening questions on Kupid. That piece is kind of like easy.
Sure.
But what could you bait the hook? Am I using too many analogies? Give the person you're matching with your client some breadcrumbs. I matched you. Once they say they've scheduled their date, you'll know in the Kupid app, hey, their date's in 2 days. You might set yourself a reminder in the Kupid app or a task to say, hey, let that person know they're really into volleyball. Do you know anything about volleyball, or you know anything about it, or suggest that as a possible date? Like, what a great concept they might not get to on their own.
Exactly.
And so they might miss a really cool opportunity. Kara, when I'm dating, I always feel like it's like really special when you arrive at that on your own. It doesn't always happen. And I wonder how many dates you could have resonated with someone if you talked about the right thing, but it goes wrong so easily because you don't know where to go. So that guidance from a matchmaker really can help.
Exactly. And what I found is that when I do give my clients little nuggets or little breadcrumbs, it also gives them a talking point, right? Because some people don't know what the hell to say when they're talking to their match for the first time. They say all the wrong things. That's an opportunity.
Kara, I feel like one of our next episodes needs to be about like prepping your client. Because it sounds like you've experienced this before. I'm just thinking like out loud. Yeah. I can imagine pretty easily that, how to help our clients plan for 30 minutes, and this is on voice or video, so you don't get to meet them in person. There's benefit and there's good and bad to that, right? So I'm thinking like that might be a really great training episode for us.
I like that. It also, when you give your clients nuggets, it gets them excited. Yeah. Oh my God, Ken's listened to me. Ken just told me he's matching me with this gorgeous African-American guy, that he's fit, that he travels. Like, oh, I am super excited. Because
he doesn't have cats. Amazing.
And he doesn't have cats. So if you were just to say to me, hey, I got a good match for you. He's African-American, he's whatever. Okay. Yeah, but that doesn't excite me. But when you're like, oh, he loves to travel, now I'm leaning in.
Right. Because Kara, like you actually talk about listening a lot, Kara, and I think you're right. Like it does tell me as your client, I'm investing in you for a reason. Like Kara knows me. She knows what I like, knows what I don't like. And this is great. So Kara, I think it's so smart. I think it's really, really intelligent.
Oh, this is one of the things you don't talk about on the first date.
Oh, okay. Interesting, Kara. Okay.
But it's a conversation that has to be had, right?
Sure.
Religion. What is your religion, or how religious are you? How important is it that your mate have the same religious values that you have? Mm-hmm. Even if you have to ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, how religious would you say you are? Try to gauge that, because you don't want to match somebody who's like ultra religious and has the expectation of going to Bible study on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays with someone who is, I was raised United Methodist. I went to church growing up, but I feel like I can have my own religion right here at home. I don't necessarily have to go to church in order to worship.
Right. Big conflicts. You're just gonna, as a matchmaker, you're kind of prepping. I don't know. It's hard to know, Kara, and like I'm so glad we have matchmakers out there, because this is a lot of intuition. You've got to train that gut to feel this person out, because religion, what a sticky point, And like, Kara, when someone tells you, for example, they are Christian, aren't there 1,000 flavors? Like, it's like Baskin Robbins, right? Like there's a million, you know what I mean? For everything.
Right. Oh, I'm Christian. Okay, Ken. So were you raised like Methodist, Protestant? Like what denomination?
Baptist, everything. Yeah. Catholic. It could be anything. Yeah. And that's where, like, people really do, and on both sides, they really resonate on religion. We had Linda on here that was like, she goes to church every Sunday. Fabulous. And she really wanted to find someone who resonated with her faith. But then, like, for me, example, there's lots of people who don't have religion. And so, like, and also their tolerance, because that's the other piece. Like, Kara, from a personal standpoint, I think religion can be really beautiful in the right circumstances. And Absolutely. So, like, and I found some religions to be really, like, amazing. And so I think it's having that discussion with your client really makes sense.
Yeah. And you'll hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm more so spiritual,"
Mm.
or they'll say, "I'm agnostic." Okay, well, do you really know what agnostic means? Because I think a lot of people say it, but they don't know what it necessarily means.
Well, it's on the Cupid profile too. And so even though someone might have defined their religion on the Cupid profile, maybe we should discuss it and just make sure we understand what we mean by this. Yeah, okay.
Clarify it, right? And so, and also asking, well, what other religions are you open to dating?
Mm, mm.
I have
Because
people say,
religion equals
"Oh,
responsibilities.
I'm
Like,
Baptist and I would never date a Catholic or
fair,
Dutch,"
fair.
or, kind of what's interesting is Jewish falls under that, but Judaism is the religion, right? Um, but to me, that's more of a kind of ethnicity
It's both. Yeah,
race to me, right?
sure,
And
sure.
so I have had conversations with people that say, you do realize that when someone is Jewish, they were typically born into that. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're religious or practicing. So when you get clients that are Jewish, or you may want to ask, if you get a client that's Christian, are they open to dating somebody of the Jewish faith?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's so many different levels of that. And I think like as a matchmaker, one of the things that we at Cupid headquarters really want is multiple faiths of matchmakers. Because, if you are, for example, if you are Sikh, that is a very specific religion that
Yes.
I have no idea about. I'd be totally open to dating a guy who's Sikh, but I have no idea, no concept of what that means. And so, as a matchmaker, it's your job to either learn about it or refer them to a matchmaker who can help them. Because if that is a lifelong learning, maybe you're just not the right person to help them,
Yeah, yeah, that's absolutely right. So,
Right.
yeah, the things that you aren't very familiar with, take this time out to kind of do some research about
Right.
different religions and maybe beliefs that fall under those religions. Just gonna the more information you know as a matchmaker, the better job that you're gonna be, and you'll get to the point where you'll be able to be. You'll ask a question, but you'll already kind of in your head know what your client is going to say.
Hmm.
You
And
just
you're
want
just
to hear them
clarifying. You
say
want to
that.
hear them
Mhm.
say it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
Kara, that kind of leads into your next question. I feel like this one's a doozy. So let's talk
Put your
about.
seatbelt on. Political affiliation is the number one deal breaker
Mm,
right now. Has been for the past 3 years,
mm,
4 years. Do the math on that. Why? The past 4 years. But anyway, political affiliation is very, very important. I know Linda talked no, it wasn't Linda. Cassidy was
Cassidy.
talking
Yep.
about how
Yep.
she and her husband are complete different
Opposite sides of the
political
aisle. Yeah.
right.
Yep.
What I say is hats off to them. I think some years ago it wasn't a, it wasn't a contention. You're Democrat, you're Republican, you're Libertarian, you're Independent. We all kind of got along, right? We all kind of at least had
Mutual respect, maybe.
there you go,
Mm,
mutual respect. What
mm,
I've seen in the past 4 years is that is like the biggest deal breaker.
mm.
So if your client says to you, I do not want to date anybody liberal. I'm very conservative in my
Fair.
thinking. Financially, I'm conservative. You do not want to try to set them up with somebody that's liberal. Just don't do it if you really value that client. If you want a client to be pissed off, do that. But you really have to listen to political affiliation. With political affiliation, right, wrong, or indifferently, there suggests some social tones with that. There's suggestive of some racial tones with that.
Hmm.
There it's suggestive of people's gender affiliation and their sexuality with that. So political affiliation is important.
Right.
Let them share with you, what is your affiliation?
Yep.
But how important are politics to you? I've
Yeah.
had people say to me, Kara, I'll be honest, I voted for Trump, right? This last election. But I would never do that again. I don't know what
Hmm.
I was thinking. There have been a lot of things that have come to light since then. And I no longer think or feel that way.
Sure.
Or it could be, gosh, I voted for Biden, but I do see, um, I see why it's important that maybe financially I liked what Trump was doing or whatever the conversation is. I think knowing how important politics is to that individual is very important to you. And you
Right.
want to ask them, are you open to being matched with somebody with opposing political views? You can
Right.
ask them. Most
Yeah.
likely they'll tell you what they want.
Well, and as matchmakers, it is our job. Like we're not here to be converters, right? You cannot come through and decide like, whether you have diametrically opposed opinions doesn't mean this person's evil or bad in front of you, or good or
Mhm.
shining. It just means understand what they want. That is your job. So,
Right,
all right,
right.
Kara, we crossed the hardest bridge. So why don't we get on to the next one,
All
which
right.
is social views.
Social views. How important are social views to you, Ken? What,
What do
oh
you mean by social views, Kara? Like, what is social?
my
There's
gosh.
all kinds of things. Like, be more definitive.
Social justices. How important are social justices to you, Ken? Is that something that's important?
You gotta be more definitive. What do you mean? Like,
Um,
like,
let's talk about, okay, yeah, let me not tiptoe around it.
right.
How do you feel about Black Lives Matter?
I think it's so funny that like the phrase was pioneered, right?
Right.
Because like, isn't it sad that we have to like underline a certain race or
Yes.
anything and say like? But I think it's a great conversation to have because like if you watch the news, you see like it's a constant barrage of terrible like. Kara, I think I've told you this, but people might not know. I previously dated a person of color. It was a totally new experience for me. And that was like super important because I'd never done that before. I dated someone who was Latin, but he was like extremely light skinned and passed for white, so his experience wasn't really the same. But like I dated a Jamaican man, which like there's no question, when you date a Jamaican man, like they are very black, right? And
Booyaka.
and it was such a conversation to have because like we had to talk about this. I mean, I wanted him to come like visit my family in Florida, and he's like, I am never getting in a car in Florida ever. And I was like, why? He's like, my brother was held at gunpoint twice driving through the state. And so I will never do it. Never, ever can. And so like, maybe sometimes it takes those experiences, but also, yes, like underlining those things is super important.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't want to set someone up that's a member of the KKK with somebody that's
Or
somebody
who's
else.
not even open to it. I mean, it's even a bigger piece, right? There's also like, especially these days, Kara, aren't there like so many more pieces that are not just racial? There's people's
Oh,
views on abortion. There's,
yep.
there's, I mean, I can't believe we're still talking about this, but there's like opinions of trans, like where you can and can't have, possible trans connections. And I will say, let me say one really interesting thing, Kara. And this is like, I won't use names, but I'm kind of like divulging a little bit of my own life experience.
All
But
right.
as a person I am pretty devoutly homosexual. Like I don't have any interest in women, and I think that's actually rare. There's an interesting thing that's happening now, and I think what dating apps have created is this safe space where your profile can be shown to the same sex, and you're willing to possibly connect with those people. And
Hmm.
it's not like a world in which you need to push people to be homo or heterosexual or any other flavor, but as a matchmaker, Kara, wouldn't you say like it is because you're still a person, and like especially if this person has an interest or a possibility in one thing or being open to that relationship,
Right.
it's got to be awkward, Kara. Like I think like it's an interesting conversation to have, but wouldn't it be awkward to bring that up? Like, would you be open to like dating the same sex? Are you only interested in the opposite gender? Like, what an
I think you should
interesting.
ask. I think
Hmm, hmm.
I think it's a valid question. I have had a lot of people that are looking for whatever, a female looking for male, but would be open with the right person to date a female or vice
So
versa.
interesting. And that's what's really beautiful about being a matchmaker is if you can get their what did you say at the top of the conversation? Permission. If you can have their permission to be honest and get to know them really intimately, and this is all private. There's no like you never share this information with anyone. Your job is not to go spread their business in the corner. Like your job
Right.
is to say we're open to it. We're open. Our
Right.
minds are open. Our hearts are open.
Right.
So I think that's really special. I
I
think
think,
that's really
but
cool.
I always take notes too. As I'm talking to them, I'll
Mm,
jot some notes down as to what they say. And then,
mhm.
of course, that fantastic CRM system that you have will allow us to kind of transfer our notes over to that client. Because if there's
Kara,
something,
you're outing our features before they're here. Shh.
sorry.
It's okay, Kara. They'll be here next week. We have some new features coming that Kara got access to. It's fine.
Anyway, it'll be helpful for you in the future, and you'll see why. So take notes if you can. Education. What is your highest level of education? Some people that are educated, they want strictly to be matched with other people that are highly educated. You'll hear people talk about being equally yoked a lot. So,
Oh, interesting. I've never heard that phrase, Kara.
being equally yoked,
What does
just
that mean?
meaning they want to be balanced. So what they have, they want their mate to also have. Like, so if they come from a high position, they're very professional. They went to and studied at some various themed colleges or universities. They typically look for those kind of characteristics in a mate. They want somebody who also really valued education and went and got their master's degree. And
Mm-hmm.
then you have people that will say, you know what? I have my JD. However, education isn't really that important. It's somebody's intellect. So I really value intellect over education.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's if that is the case, you want to know that this person may only have a bachelor's degree, but gosh, she's really, really intelligent. Or maybe she only has a high school diploma, but she's
Sure.
intelligent. And you would never know that she only had a high school diploma. If she's intelligent, why not hook her up with this guy that has a Juris Doctorate degree?
Sure.
He said
Yeah.
that intelligence is more important than education.
Got it. And so, like, defining that where that way is, because I know a lot of people. There are a lot of people out there who say, like, if they don't have their masters, And it's so funny,
yeah.
Kara. Do you think it's your responsibility when you're asking something like that to then say, like, it almost feels like most of these questions are two-part. Number one is, tell me about what you're looking for: education, social views, political affiliation. The part B to all those questions are you open to someone outside of that range? Whatever range you just told me, are you open to outside of it, or is it a hard barrier? Because if it's not, if it's not, then okay, that's a sticky point. But I need to know where you have that flexibility.
I think that's a great follow-up question to ask on all of these topics.
Because it sounds like our job as matchmakers is not just to take in what we're hearing, but to actually investigate and go deeper and make sure we clarify, because it's not great if we pass up on really great opportunities just because it didn't fit necessarily right in their little cookie cutter.
That's absolutely right. And I've had conversations where I've challenged people to say, okay, well, let's talk about that a little more, Ken. Like, is that really important at the end of the day? And they'll find themselves saying, you know what, Kara, that's not really important. Or they'll learn that as they're going through their matchmaking process. I know I told you in the beginning that this was important to me, but what I found by going through this process, Ken, is that the education really isn't a big component for me. It's more about the intelligence and how that person speaks.
Kara, I want to make you laugh real quick. I experienced this when I was going through dating as a younger man. I learned that I have an obsession with posture. Because my mother,
made me.
My mother, my entire life, like, she would always, like, basically flick us or like pop us with something. And because I'm 6'5", my brother is 6'8", and the whole family is 6 foot plus. Okay, so we're very big, and like as big people, you tend to slouch. And it's bad for you, but it's also gross. It's not attractive.
Yeah.
And so now she built it into me. Talk about baggage. Like, if they have bad posture, I am like. Which, you might not have that conversation when you're trying to like present to your matchmaker, but the beauty is, and if you don't know this already, On every single time you send someone a first look of a prospective person to match them with, they are your client is then requested to tell you two things. What do you like and what don't you like? These are always private things that only the matchmaker sees. But this is so important because you might see a pattern over time,
Exactly.
and after each one of these dates, they have to do the same thing over again. What did you like about this person? What did you not like? It's all private. And this helps, as a matchmaker, it helps you learn, okay, they're really obsessed with teeth. I better be more focused on that, right? Or like, he really doesn't like blondes. Something,
Right.
just these pieces are really important. And
Right.
we here at Cupid, like, if you guys haven't heard, we are really here to fix these problems for you. And if you can think of ways that we can assist, please let us know because, Kara got to see some new features that we're working on today that were entirely based on conversations we had on the Discord channel. So we're listening. We're here to fix it for you. Just tell us what you're thinking.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, Kara. Sorry, I hijacked it. Go ahead. Go for the next one.
That's okay. You did hijack it. Relationship goals. What are your relationship goals? Are you looking to get married? Are you looking just to be in a committed partnership?
Right.
Let's see. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought because you want to make sure that you don't have somebody who's looking, of course, to get married and settle down with someone whose goal is to just find someone to cohabitate with.
Right.
Yeah.
And it comes back to a lot of those like milestones, right? Do you care about marriage? I can tell you, like, I have a lot of friends who live in California, Kara, and they don't care about the sanctity of marriage. It's not a conversation they even want to have. But
Right.
it's important because some people only, especially based on religion and your family, they only feel like you did it once you're married. So, what are your milestones? Like, what do you want to achieve? Do those matter to you?
Exactly. How
No.
important is that to you? Hey, I'm looking to get married. It tells me that there's pressure. Maybe the parents are saying, tick tock, tick tock. Why
Mm-hmm.
haven't you
Mm-hmm.
brought that special someone home for the holidays yet? Right. So
Kara, I want to ask you, because you just mentioned it, have you ever worked with someone's parents before?
yes.
Oh, yeah? Like the parents hire
Mm.
you? I'm so interested.
The parents hired me to find someone for their daughter.
Okay.
Hmm.
Uh-huh.
But I got to talk to the parents and they gave me like little nuggets.
Okay.
What the case was is this young lady came from a large family. They were all girls. Um,
Wow.
all of her sisters were married and they were married to very, very successful
Oh,
gentlemen.
oh Lord.
So like
Here we
no
go.
pressure, right? Like
Uh,
attorneys and anesthesiologists, like a
uh,
very high
mm,
up, highly accomplished family. But
mm-hmm,
she was the only one that wasn't married.
mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
and so, in the mother's eyes, it was important that by this time next year, she have somebody to bring home for the holiday
Wow.
dinner with her. So her mother said, "Okay, fine. I don't really like who you've been dating. I'm going to hire you a matchmaker because you need some help with your choices." And so the mother hired me to do matching for her daughter.
That's so interesting, Kara, because I wonder if that's going to become more common. I know in many other cultures this is a very common thing, but I can tell you in my family experience, I don't know about your family, Kara, but like it really matters actually how well you mesh with the family.
Yes.
Because, I remember, okay, this is a funny story. Just take a little caveat. I remember I was in Chicago and I talked to my best friend one time, and he proposed a question to me that I'd never thought of before. And he said to me, would you even be willing to date someone who didn't love your family? And my immediate reaction was like fury. And I said, no, of course not. My family's amazing. Like they're so fun
Right?
and charming, but they're also extremely close to my heart. And then I realized, oh my gosh, like I better be careful because if that's my guttural reaction to someone, like, it's just so funny that like my parents really matter and your family matters because they're the ones you have before everyone else. Any jobs change,
Absolutely.
things change, but your family never leaves. And it's so funny that mixture. And so, I mean, we are not of like we're not Indian or even like of like a Chinese descent, but it's so interesting how that could like factor in,
That is very
and like
important. Mhm.
parents and grandparents agreeing. So
A
it's
lot of
just funny. It's just something I wonder if you experienced that before.
I have, and I think a lot of people, look for their parents or their family for approval of the relationship.
Mm,
right, wrong, or indifferently. We kind of seek approval that, oh God, that's a great guy. Where'd you get him? Great catch, right? That's what we want to hear.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting.
All right, Kara. So these are the next ones, and I'm really interested in this because this is such an open-ended question, and I want to know, like, how do people usually answer the question, like the desired characteristics of a mate?
I want somebody that their family, it's important to them, that has good morals, that has integrity. I want someone that's kind, that's just really kind to other people.
Interesting. And those are the things you usually listen for? Okay.
I want to hear, what type of person are you looking for? And I want them to spell it out. I'm not even going to give them any suggestions or nuggets. Now, if I see they're kind of like, oh, I might give them a little hint or ideas, but I want to hear from them. What characteristics are you looking for? I want somebody that's close with their family. I want somebody that's, has good morals, who was raised going to church, who has a belief in God.
It's almost as if you're asking about their values, you know?
Yes.
Because if you tell me like good morals, I'm like, who says they want someone who's bad morals? Like, that's such a ridiculous statement. Who's like, I want a delinquent. Like, give me that one. Like,
I want
facial tattoos. I want better have a criminal record. If they don't, I'm not doing it. Like, who says that? No one says
they're verbalizing it to you. So that means that there's something has happened in the course of one of their relationships that they feel the need that they have to communicate this to you. So something was wrong where, gosh, he has to be strong with his family. Tells me probably you had a relationship with somebody you really, really liked, that wasn't close with their family, and it caused a little rift or a little dissension between the two people.
Right. Yeah. I can see that.
Does that make sense?
Do you want to laugh? I have 3 rules when I go through these. Kara, wait, hold on. Do you have these rules? Do you have any rules whenever you're like dating someone? Do you have like, what do you say when someone says your desired characteristics? If you don't want to share it, you don't have to.
What I want in a person?
Why not? Let me ask.
Yeah, I need somebody honest. I need somebody very transparent that's good with communication. I want somebody that has a strong work ethic, right? I need somebody that values a good work-life balance.
Yeah, enjoys himself, but also gets stuff done. Yeah.
Right, and exactly, and somebody where social justices matter. That I don't care about the ethnicity, but if I have to sit down and teach you, right, I don't want to do that. I need for you to already know a little bit about why I feel the way I feel.
Makes sense. Kara, let me make you laugh. I actually have 3 rules when I'm dating. Because, like, Kara, I was one of those people early. I'm pretty sure we've all had that. Or every matchmaker will have the client. They'll have like the list master, right? Of like, well, let me just email you my spreadsheet. And like, your computer crashes, and you're like, this is like Build-A-Bear? No, this is like, let's find you a human, shall we?
Exactly.
So Kara, I learned a long time ago that for me, I had to cut it down to just 3 things, which I'm like proud of myself, because Kara, you've done some work with me. Like, I tend to like get up at 5 a.m. and be like, all the things. So, Kara, my 3 things, I'll make you laugh. Number 1 is a given, right? Must want children. Okay. Kara, I wonder if this is like an exercise that matchmakers should go through with their clients to like understand only the 3 top things. Like, if you could only have 3 things, what would it be? Because a conversation like this can have an infinite quantity of answers.
I like that.
That's maybe. Okay, but hold on, I'll finish mine just to make you laugh. So number 1 is must want children, plural. Okay. Number 2 is no vegans. So as you mentioned, I went through the process that you did where I dated someone who was vegan, and as someone who loves food and someone who loves to cook, we had so much connectivity, but I harbored like hatred. I was so angry all the time because everything, honey, milk, cream, cheese, all the things that I wanted to cook with were not allowed anymore. And I'm like, this is horrible. So no vegans for me. Okay. And my last thing, Kara, which you'll like, I hope, is an appetite for life. I want you to get up hungry, because I am hungry all the time. I do not, because what happened was on another occasion, I dated someone who had like chronic complacence. And so this is interesting, Kara. I think, and now I'm getting what you're saying when I even go over my own rules. I'm like, this is all because of my previous relationships. I'm seeing it. Like it's all, that's where what you're really doing is you're diagnosing where they're currently at. You're almost like a doctor. You're diagnosing the
Exactly.
situation based on your pre-existing conditions.
That is
Dr. Kara
exactly
Bell.
right. Ding, 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 ding,
Interesting.
ding. You got it.
Interesting.
I cannot see
Interesting.
you being with somebody that is chronically complacent. There's just no way in hell.
Yeah, he was really, really attractive. Super sweet. And well, you know, Kara, it's always that thing of like you're attracted to someone who's not you. You know, like as much as like all like I am. Listen, I will wave my Type A flag. Like I am Type A, but I find the relaxed, chill, like laissez-faire, like kind of enjoying their life so attractive that it can like pull me in. Like I am like as I get older, Kara, I don't know about you, but like I'm over this hustle porn. When they're like grind, 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 work 400 hours a week, I'm like, I don't even think that math works. Like I don't think no, like I want to live. And so I can, that's how it happens is you're so attracted to the other side of the fence and like the other world. I think that's how it occurs.
Right. That is very interesting.
All right, Kara, we are at time for today. We're a little bit over actually, but I think we got some really great nuggets. We didn't get that many comments. We got a few comments, but they're mostly about like when Kupid's launching. So just to answer that question real quick, guys, Kupid, as you might know, we weren't able to launch last week. You can go watch the video about that, but Kara and I will be back later this week to talk about more. As soon as we're ready to launch, we will let you know. We are not going to define a date right now. So, Kara, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, my pleasure. Have a great week and have fun trick-or-treating. Have fun with your kids. Be safe.
Yes, we're a great